Alteration and Illusion are two of the most undervalued and underused skills in all of Skyrim. Our Illusion and Alteration hybrid Assassin build, also known as the Nightblade, will make use of the invisibility and paralyze spells to make them a silent and imperceptible killer that is also lethal in open combat. I will cover the build's backstory, roleplaying and faction choices, perks and attributes, armor and weapons, playstyle, and finally recommended mods. There will be timestamps if you want to revisit or skip any of these sections. I'm planning quite a few build videos on this channel, so make sure you get subscribed so you don't miss any of them. The Assassin Nightblade was born in High Rock to a Breton mother and Nord father. Their favourite pastime was reading. The Nightblade would mostly read fiction novels at the library. Their favourites were the tales of epic heists and feats of stealth and thievery. But they also found some really interesting books on illusion magic. They didn't teach it at the school, but the Nightblade was very interested in the stories of thieves using illusion magic to bend people's will and to stay hidden. The Nightblade even discovered books about the Dark Brotherhood. As a lower class citizen, the Nightblade envied the nobles and dreamed of stealing their gems so that they could one day own a noble estate and live in luxury. The Nightblade's father was running low on money and was getting desperate. He was running out of time to find enough money to make the next payment on their family home, so he turned to gambling in a final desperate attempt, staking all that he owned against a rich visiting merchant, putting his life on one dice throw. It turned out he had also run out of luck and lost the bet. Nobody knows what happened to him or where he went after that. Most assumed he fled High Rock, never to be seen again. The fate of our Assassin Nightblade and their mother were to become slaves at the merchant's estate in Skyrim. It turned out the merchant was actually a spy employed by the Thalmor to find trade secrets and leads by attending parties, eavesdropping in local inns, and bribing jarls. The spy was eventually fired by the Thalmor after a failed mission, and on the same day in a drunken rage murdered our Nightblade's mother for simply spilling some wine. Our Nightblade swore they would get their revenge. They waited until the spy had left for a few days on a mission for some unknown clients and used their mother's remains to perform the Black Sacrament, promising the assassin all of the spy's possessions if successful. The assassin agreed and the contract was fulfilled. The Nightblade's new life mission was to become as rich and powerful as they could, stealing from those unworthy of wealth. The Nightblade would then use the power and wealth they amass to save and free the people of Skyrim. If the Nightblade had to get a little blood on their hands to achieve that goal, so be it. The Assassin Nightblade has no place to live now, and was not likely to survive in Skyrim on their own. As the Nightblade felt they owed a life debt to the Dark Brotherhood, they asked the Assassin if they could join the Dark Brotherhood, and that's where our adventure will begin. After the Dark Brotherhood, I would recommend doing the Thieves Guild for Nightingale armor. You can join the Companions if you want to train combat skills. The College of Winterhold is a must, as the Nightblade will want to make use of the skill trainers and eventually become the Archmage to be able to craft their end game armor. More on that later. At this point, the Nightblade is a silence killer from the Brotherhood, Rich from the Thieves Guild, an illusion wizard from the College, an expert archer and durable warrior from the Companions, and is ready to face the Greybeards and help free Skyrim of the dragon threat. After this, the Civil War is optional. You could go either way on this, because you could say the Nightblade doesn't like the Thalmor, so might go with the Stormcloaks, but on the other hand, you could use the argument that Stormcloaks have a reputation of racism and mistreatment of the Dark Elves, and go with the Imperials. It's completely up to you. Then you can do the Dawnguard DLC and Dragonborn DLC, and when it comes to Daedric quests, you should side with the Daedra because they are far too powerful to be challenged, so in order to survive, you should do as they ask, and having friends in high places is not necessarily a bad thing. For your race, you might have figured out from the backstory that you are going to be a Breton. The gender doesn't matter, choose whichever one you want to go with. And in regards to perks, to reach this build's full potential, you will need to level all the way up to level 60. In the description you will find a link to a leveling guide document that outlines which skills to pick for every 10 levels. However, to save time in this video, I'm just going to go through all of the skills that you will need to have by the time you get to level 60. So the skills you will need at level 60 are as follows. From the smithing tree, steel smithing, dwarven smithing, orcish smithing and ebony smithing. From the one-handed tree, armsman 3, fighting stance, dual flurry 2, savage strike and dual savagery. From the archery tree, overdraw 3, steady hand 2, power shot, eagle eye, quick shot and bullseye. From the light armor tree, agile defender 2, custom fit, unhindered, windwalker and deft movement. From the sneak skill tree, you're going to want stealth 5, muffled movement, deadly aim, light foot, backstab, silent roll, assassin's blade and silence. From the illusion tree, novice illusion, apprentice illusion, expert illusion, animage, kindred mage, quiet casting, adept illusion and master illusion. From the restoration tree, novice restoration, apprentice restoration and adept restoration. From the alteration tree, novice alteration, apprentice alteration, adept alteration and expert alteration and master alteration. From the enchanting tree, enchanter 1, insightful enchanter, corpus enchanter and extra effect. For your attributes, I would recommend spreading them pretty much evenly across health, stamina and magic, because you're going to make use of all 3 of them, although stamina is probably less useful than the other 2, so you can have that lowest on your priorities if you want. For standing stone, I would start with the Atronach stone, because the extra 50 magicka will be a massive help when using muffle to level your illusion skill at lower levels, and the magicka absorption makes it easily the most useful standing stone to recommend for almost any build. Then when you get the ethereal crown, I would recommend going with the lover stone to help you get all the way up to that astronomical level 60. When you start the game, the first thing you're going to do is join the Dark Brotherhood, so you will get a very good set of armour straight away that will serve you well until you eventually get the Ancient Shrouded armour, then the Nightingale armour from the Thieves Guild, and finally craft your own custom enchanted armour. Your weapons for a while, when you start leveling, will just be the most powerful daggers and bow you can get hold of at the time, or you can have one dagger and another one-handed weapon of your choice. Both the Dark Brotherhood and Thieves Guild questlines will reward you with good one-handed weapons and bows. Eventually, you will want to get the Ethereal Crown with the Lover's or Steed Stone stored inside of it, which you can wear under any hood, which will be absolutely perfect for the Nightingale hood, and eventually for your full custom enchanted armour, which you will need the Black Mage armour mod to be able to use. I recommend using the Ebony Archmage light armour variant of the Black Mage armour. You will need to have completed the College of Winterhold questline to be able to make this armour, and then you are going to want to put custom enchantments on it with Alteration, Illusion, Magicka, Bow Damage, Sneak, One-Handed, Health and or Magicka Regeneration enchantments. For PlayStation users without access to the Black Mage armor mod, I would recommend using the Unique Armors and Weapons Unenchanted and Craftable mod to craft an unenchanted version of the Nightingale armor to put your custom enchantments on. If you don't want to use mods at all, I would recommend using Dragon Scale armor, the only issue with that being that you won't be able to use the Ethereal Crown with the Dragon Scale helmet. For your end game weapons, you will want either dual Dragonbone daggers or one Dragonbone dagger and one one-handed weapon of your choice, custom enchanted with paralysis and absorb health. You'll also want a Dragonbone bow with custom paralysis and soul trap enchantment. At the early levels of this build, you're going to rely quite heavily on archery. You should use the muffle spell to help you stay hidden and pick off your enemies at a distance. If you do get spotted, you should use dual one-handed weapons and the oak flesh spell for a small boost to your armor rating. The restoration spell healing is also going to help you out a lot at lower levels. The slow time shout is also going to be really useful in those situations where you get spotted. As you start leveling up, you can upgrade Oak Flesh and Healing to the higher level variants of those skills, and as you have been using the Muffle spell, you should be able to quickly get your illusion up high enough to use Quiet Casting, which is absolutely essential for this build, and eventually the invisibility spell, which will allow you to start sneaking right up behind people and sneak attacking them with a dagger instead of your bow, making use of that crazy damage multiplier you get from dagger sneak attacks. However, because the invisibility spell deactivates when you hit someone, if there are multiple enemies close to each other, you are likely to get spotted, so the bow might still come in handy late game in those situations. Once you have leveled your alteration up enough, a good way to do this is using the transmute mineral ore spell. You will be able to use the paralyze spell, which is going to be incredibly useful in those situations where you get spotted and forced into open combat. At some point you will need to find and unlock the Aura Whisper shout, and with the Quiet Casting perk, which makes shouts not affect your detection, you can use this spell when exploring to scope out your enemies and plan how you are going to attack. It can also reveal hidden enemies, which can be really useful. At the end of the game, your strategy will be to first use Aura Whisper to see all of your enemies, pick one or two off with the bow if necessary, then use your invisibility spell to sneak up and murder whoever remains. If you are spotted, you will quickly fire off an armor boosting alteration spell and paralyze your enemy and easily take them out as they lay hopeless on the ground. If the enemy is resistant to the paralyze spell, you can use the slow time shout to easily avoid being damaged by them and kill them before they even realize what's happening. Okay, so for recommended mods, we've already covered a few of them in the gear section, but I'll just go over them again. So you're going to want the Black Mage Armor mod, and if you're on PlayStation, you're going to want the Unique Armors and Weapons Unenchanted and Craftable mod. Other recommended mods apart from armor, I would go with an alternate start mod, any alternate start mod that you want to use, so that you can start your game somewhere in Skyrim other than the vanilla start, or you could always actually start yourself in the Dark Brotherhood Sanctuary. And finally, the only other recommended mod that I would go with specifically for this build, just because it matches the backstory and playstyle so well, is the Build Your Own Noble House mod that allows you to spend your wealth on a lavish but not overwhelmingly large home and build your very own town, complete with shops, miners, hunters, an inn, and even a massive treasury room that fills up with ingots and gems the more gold you deposit into the gold deposit chest. If you enjoyed this video, or you think you're going to use this build, make sure you leave it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one. Cheers for watching, hopefully I'll speak to you soon.